Hey everyone, this is my review of the 135 f2 defocus control lens from Nikon, which I seem to get asked quite a lot of questions about, so I thought I'd do a little review on it. This is a lens that I use mainly for portraiture. Obviously that's exactly what it was designed for. The thing I quite like about this lens is its real unique look and rendering. People go on about sort of film look and all this sort of stuff, whilst I'm quite a nostalgic person in that sense. I do think that this lends itself to that sort of look. I really think that its rendering, especially of contrast and colours, is just something that you can't get with a modern lens really nowadays. The lens overall is built like a piece of military equipment. I mean, it's all metal. There's a couple of plastic barrels on it, but most of it is actually reinforced metal. One of the great functions about this lens and a lot of the older Nikons is that they actually incorporated the lens hood which was into the body, which just simply retracts like that. Now the great advantage of that is that you can simply just pop it back. It's a wee bit stiff, but you can just pop it back and put your lens cap back on, so that's really an excellent function. I think they should bring back into some of the new plasticky lenses that they have now. This lens is great for several things. Its f2 aperture makes it great for variable light. The one thing that I really like about this lens is that if you've got someone with quite a poor complexion, you can actually make them look very good and flatter them in a picture. Especially if you shoot around f2, f2.8 and you're quite close to them, you'll find that you'll only get eyelashes or eyes in focus and their skin will begin to just drift out of the image in terms of its depth of field, and you'll really give something that looks quite unique. Obviously every image is about the light, and certainly you'll want to shoot in situations that either use some flash, or as I prefer to do, look for locations like under a tree where there's very diffuse light, or next to a window where you can actually do some sort of Rembrandt lighting. You know, anything that will give a flattering image depending on your subject. This is a lens that I don't think I've ever used beyond about f5.6, and I only tend to use it at f5.6 when I'm very close to someone, and I might even go to f8 when I'm very close to someone, so that I would actually get most of their face in focus when I'm taking a picture of them. As I said, the thing I really like about it is how well it's built. I mean, I've had this lens about 7 years and it still feels like the day I bought it. The focus ring, the manual focus ring, is extremely smooth. It does obviously have autofocus. It does focus down to about 1.1 meters, so you have to be a wee bit away from your subject, but there doesn't seem to be any focus breathing. The other unique thing about this lens is that it does have a defocus image control setting. Now this is a bit misunderstood, but basically what it is a Nikon patented idea by one of their engineers. I think it was in the 70s. And by flicking this round to rear or front, I can actually affect how the shape of the bokeh in the rear and the foreground appears. Now it's quite subtle and you have to look for it, so for me, for my money, for my 800 quid that I spent on this, I'm not really that bothered about it, but it's useful to have it. Some people will no doubt notice it. For me, it's just too subtle. What I think this lens is for its unique look and rendering, its big f2 aperture, its extreme sharpness when stopped down. I mean, optically it's a great lens. One thing I would say in its downside is autofocus isn't perfect, and in very difficult situations, in difficult light, it might struggle. But I find that if your autofocus point is placed in the right place over an eye, and the eye is quite big in the image, or whatever you're focusing on under that focus box is quite big, it can pick up focus no bother. Certainly don't expect it to track anyone walking around, anything like that, because really it's not for that anyway. And shooting in low light, if you get into ridiculous low light, I'm talking about stuff where you're having to use ISO 44,000 or something, then yeah, it's probably going to struggle, but you'll find that most lenses struggle in that sort of lighting situation. Certainly this is the sort of lens that you want to use in good light, in my opinion. As with most portraiture lenses, I don't see why you would want to take pictures of people in the dark, but it seems to be a craze nowadays. Anyway, if you've got any questions on this lens or would like to know any more about it, just drop me a comment below. Also look in the little info box below the video and add me on Facebook and Google+, and we can have a further chat if you want. Cheers, thanks for watching.